Berglund.
Hey, Chris.
Who's a NoSQL expert and Github, I believe.
That is correct.
That's true.
Okay. I'm wearing the shirt and everything.
So I thought
Always well branded.
I thought I'd start with NoSQL, NoSQL. A lot of people don't seem to know what it is. There seems to be a lot of misinformation, so to speak. Would you care to offer a definition of what it's not, I guess, what it is?
Yeah, well, that's a good one. I think that the reason why there's a lot of confusion and misinformation is because the term itself is not all that good.
Okay.
It's kind of the buzzword that we're stuck with,
Yeah.
and I use it. I mean, it's in the title of my talk, and it's I use it shamelessly. It gets people in the door. But it doesn't really get at the heart of what the product category is all about. I mean, we could as easily call Oracle a non-key value store, and that wouldn't really be very informative, right?
Sure.
What it really is a new category, or kind of a broadened category of additional databases. It used to be, even just 5 or 6 years ago, if I'm a software developer developing a typical enterprise application, web application, there's one kind of database I can pick. I have to think MySQL, Postgres, Oracle, something like that, but they're all basically the same. Now that category is bigger. I've got different kinds of databases that present different data models, different scaling paradigms, things like that I have to choose from.
Okay, so why is this rise occurred? I think it's been the last few years where it's really taken off. Why do you think that is?
Good question again. There's been some pressure in the area of scale. I think that's kind of what got us into the whole movement. You have products like Cassandra, and React, and Voldemort that are all fundamentally scalable things. You don't use them if you don't have a big data problem. And so that's kind of made room. And there's been other products like MongoDB, which has a good scale story, and also a good use case in smaller applications. Things like Neo4j, which again has existed before NoSQL was a term. Now that it's a thing, I think the web put pressure on scale. That caused certain traditional database technologies to get a little tired, and that's kind of created space. Now we've got this NoSQL thing, and there's other areas in that ecosystem that other products can flourish, even where scale isn't their main concern.
Okay. Two in particular, I think, are getting more prominence than the rest: Cassandra and MongoDB. What separates them from the pack, so to speak, for you?
Okay, for me. Well, you've got in both cases a great community, lots of adoption behind them, and commercial entities behind them.
Yeah, sure.
In contrast to maybe a Voldemort, that's an internal product of LinkedIn. There's no real company that's backing it. But Cassandra, you've got DataStax, MongoDB, you've got 10gen, big developer communities, very clear use cases. Neo4j would be a similar example. You've got great commercial entity behind it, great community, really defined use case that helps separate.
Okay, so there's a few obviously bubbling underneath the radar, so to speak. I think you probably mentioned a few of Voldemort, React, for example. Which ones do you think are the ones that could be next to join that pack with Cassandra and MongoDB?
Certainly React, and I could, or React. It's never clear to debate. Is it React? Is it React? Is it Basho? Is it Basho? Even in the U.S., we argue about that. But depending on the way you slice and dice the ecosystem, it should be in that list. Depending on whom you ask, it's clearly a first class.
Just a matter of time, in your opinion.
A matter of time, a matter of sensibility, matter of preference. There would be some that would rather talk about React and not Cassandra. My commitment has always been to Cassandra, and that's sort of where I've been. So that's why that's there. In terms of what's next, there's a product called Github. Nobody. Oh, such an amazing thing. Nobody quite feels comfortable calling that NoSQL. They're like, don't know. Is Rich going to get mad at me if I say NoSQL?
Let's figure it with him, won't we?
That's going to make a splash. It's making a splash. It's going to be a big deal. It's going to find a different set of use cases, but definitely keep your eye on it.
Okay. I couldn't let you get away without talking about Git itself. Just briefly, why should we use Git?
Why should we use Git? Well, there's I think three answers to that. One is the cool kids are using it. That's not as bad as it sounds, because you're going to get a strategic recruiting and retention advantage if you're an enterprise. You're using forward-looking things. You're able to interact with the open source community better. That's one reason. A second reason, they're very practical things, like performance is better. merging causes fewer headaches. They're just kind of little incremental, my life is a little bit more pleasant. I think the most significant pro-Git argument that I use is it doesn't have a lot of opinions about what the workflow ought to be. It's kind of a toolkit for you to develop source control and release management processes that fit your organization, the things you need to get done, and lets you evolve those. It doesn't have workflow built into it, and it doesn't tend to resist new processes and new things you're going to develop. It lets you evolve all of those processes as your team evolves, your practices evolve. It tries to stay out of the way and let you do the kinds of things that you need a source control tool to do.